And we're live. You're welcome along this Monday morning to Off the Ball AM. As ever, if you want to get in touch with us, we're on Twitter, twitter.com/off the ball. We're on facebook.com/off the ball. We're on youtube.com/off the ball. And wherever it is that you get your social media across today. We've got one of the hardest working commentary teams in world football with us this morning. Dave McIntyre and Keith Andrews, how you doing?
Morning.
What were your travel arrangements over the course of the weekend? Where were you?
I was in Brighton on Saturday rather, my maiden visit to the Amex Stadium. Cracking stadium, unbelievable atmosphere for the game against Liverpool. And then I thought Bournemouth, given that it was on the south coast, wouldn't be that far from Brighton, but it is very far away, so 2.5-hour train journey Saturday evening. And I was at the Vitality yesterday for El Clasico, 1-1 between Bournemouth and Southampton. Very good. Where were you? All over the place.
I was Leeds Villa Friday night. Good game.
Yeah.
It's probably a game we all grew up watching as Premier League, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Proper game. And then Stoke Swansea on Saturday, which was...
classic. Was it 0-0? Was it 1-1?
No, it was 2-1. It was 2-1 So
at least there was some
set
goals.
The bar that low that anything was going to be a bonus. So
there you go. I was clearly paying attention to what was going on in the Stoke Swansea game over the course of the weekend. Coming up, we've got a full house today. Joe Malloy's making his Off the Ball AM debut. He only gets out of bed to play golf or talk about it. Tiger Woods had a pretty good week, a bit of a blip on Saturday, but all in all, he's back playing golf and looking relatively competitive in a fairly exhibition-style tournament where they all just kind of have this wheelbarrow of cash and fill it up as they go along. So that's coming up around about 8:30 this morning. Oisin Langan's going to be here to talk about his actual club, Ardmore, as opposed to his adopted club, winning Munster junior intermediate title, junior hurling title at the weekend when they beat Ballybacon. As well as that, Pep Guardiola, Pep time. I'm going to talk a bit about that with Keith. We've got the back pages for you. What else? Johan van Graan, and of course we're going to play you some of our documentary about the family and friends of Niall Donohue. If you haven't seen this yet, then get on our Facebook channel or our YouTube channel and check it out. We start with the newspaper headlines. Quite a varied selection of newspaper headlines this morning, which probably means that there's no main story sticking out. Brilliant back page from the Irish Independent. It is the end, it looks like for now, of Cora Staunton playing football in Ireland, but I kind of get the feeling that she'll be back perhaps next season to play for her club at least, and because she's obviously just won an All-Ireland title with Cornican and is heading to Australia now to be a professional Aussie rules player.
Yeah, the front of the Irish Times, with the top half of the Irish Times sports session. Guardiola happy to win in Fergie time. I think City have won 4 games in a row now, including the Champions League win over Feyenoord with a goal in the last 10 minutes. So they're leaving it late, but they're getting the job done. And then the bottom story is by Gavin Comiskey in the Times. It relates to Peter O'Mahony. A lot of talk last week about his future and whether or not he'll be signing a new contract with Munster. Apparently, we're expected to get a little bit of news from the RFU on that today. And what is a massive week for Munster, because Leicester visit Thomond Park on Saturday evening in the Champions Cup.
Bad news, Páirc Uí Chaoimh cost comes in at 86.4 million. Good news, Cork GAA to earn 15 to 20 million from Landry's own. This is the lead story on the Irish Examiner. More about Johan van Graan. Tigers tests ensure honeymoon for Van Graan is brief. This is the Leicester Tigers back-to-back games coming up for Munster. And City Slickers, Liam Mellows crowned Galway hurling champions after 47-year wait. So a great, happy, feel-good story for Liam Mellows, but obviously massive disappointment for Gort.
As Ger said, no real lead story today in most of the papers. The Times Ireland edition has a number of stories covering its back page. City's Fergie time boast, so Pep Guardiola referencing what he had heard about Alex Ferguson's time at Old Trafford. A massive weekend for Gordon Elliott as well. Details of the big race that his horses have won. He's looking for his first Trainers' Championship as well. And a little mention of Liam Mellows, the Galway champions for the first time in 47 years. Massive weekend for them.
The Irish Daily Mail, cooler as ice. Is Coola Bula, is it not?
Coola Bula is a good one.
I think so.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it?
Coola Shaker is somewhere else in one of the other papers.
And Coola Shaker is just a little bit 1990s.
There's nothing wrong with that.
At least with Coola Bula, it's like there was... Has that moment in time passed where it's not like a cultural artefact anymore, where love-hate doesn't matter, it doesn't exist? Is it gone from public consciousness?
I haven't used it in a long, long time.
Well, I don't think you'd use it.
If ever.
Yeah.
Bringing it back in.
Anyway, Coola as ice. Champions in form as Liam Mellows await. So Cool obviously beat Kilcormac Calahi yesterday. Pretty one-sided. Great pictures of Shane Stapleton in the middle of it all. Got on for 2 minutes, I think, at the end. We love taking the piss out of Shane Stapleton on this show, but he is there very close to the cup. I mean,
well, he played his part.
he did.
Conor Callaghan wasn't
Giving
getting
Conor
the job
Callaghan-
done. So Shane
Giving
came on
Conor-
to see it out.
Giving Conor a bit of a rest for the last 2 minutes of the game. And then Elliott's unbelievable treble stuns Fairyhouse. This is Gordon Elliott treble, which was so unbelievable it was only 10-1 to win that, according to Tommy, who was all over it at the weekend, but didn't pass it on to us.
No, didn't pass it on to any of us and the rest of the off-the-ball team. The Star today, it's all about Pep Guardiola and Manchester City Deja Blue. For those of us desperate for a really good Premier League title race, as we are on off-the-ball, because we have the derby this Sunday, well, Manchester City are kind of ruining that, because 3 Premier League games in a week that they've won by an odd goal in the last 10 minutes. Some more reference to Kula Shakers, which we mentioned there, and Pogba's new fear, because there's a chance that Manchester United are fearing Paul Pogba might get actually a longer ban, not just for the red card for the tackle on Hector Bellerin on Saturday, but then the way that he sarcastically applauded the referee's decision as he left the field.
The herald for you is Super Silva. That's the Guardiola City restore 8-point gap on United ahead of Derby clash, and then Kula Kings of Leinster again. Paul Schutte lifting the cup there for them. Jose's praise for Lingard in big win at Emirates, I guess, because he was the genius who picked him, obviously, and got rewarded by a couple of goals. So, you know.
Let's have a look at the Sun today. More about Fergie time. Guardiola, I'm loving Fergie time. And then there's a little side story. United bid to beat Pogba, red card. There's some hint that they're going to appeal that red card for the tackle on Hector Bellerin.
I
Looked
think
as clean cut a red card as it could possibly be to me.
I've got a little bit of sympathy with him, but it's a red. There's no doubt about it. It's a red.
The City game's next, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So is
Sunday
there,
afternoon.
Can you appeal and
No,
tie
I
the
don't think
process
it-
up?
I think it'll be, even with the appeal, it'll be done in time, but
Right.
it'll be a massive miss for him.
One last one for you. We'll look at the Guardian and the Telegraph before we get on and talk about some of this stuff. Southgate's job safe, whatever the result in Russia, says FA, which I think is actually fair enough in some respects. It's like we're here for the long haul. We think Gareth Southgate is doing a reasonable job, and if we flop, we're not going to have a massive overreaction. That's to give him job security heading into it. I mean, obviously they're probably not going to flop at this point. And then Root has no regrets about Adelaide toss, says Bayliss. Dave, obviously keeping an eye on Joe Root's toss.
Well, whatever about Joe Root's toss, they are not going well. As I left, they weren't quite imploding, because a couple of their lower batsmen were actually keeping themselves in there, but they're probably going to have to follow on. You don't know what that means, do you?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
They keep batting.
Well, they'll have to go again before they put the Aussies
They
up the
declared,
second
didn't
time.
Yeah, he was right. They keep batting. Don't be so patronising.
Okay, well done, Keith.
Thank you. My cricket knowledge is good.
Little pat on the head there. We'll look at the Express, the back of the Express. Silva, magic save City. Brilliant goal from David Silva yesterday, and an absolutely wonderful ball in from Kevin De Bruyne. If they need something done, somebody somewhere is going to pop up for Man City at the moment. And let's turn off the mic. Calls for the stump mics to be turned off by the England head coach, the cricket coach, which is something I wouldn't want to see happening.
Just explain what's going on, will you? What was the story with the toss and what was the story with the...
I don't know what the story with the toss was. So
what's the story with the stump mics?
story, well, remember last week in OTB AM we were discussing Johnny Bairstow and his headbutt on the Aussie cricketer in that bar. Well, the only reason we found out about the fact that that headbutt took place was because it was picked up on the stump mics as the Aussies were sledging Bairstow when he was batting in England's second innings in the first test. We wouldn't have found out otherwise, and then of course it became this massive story, and it was all that anybody wanted to talk about after England got a bit of a hiding in the first test.
Yeah.
So their head coach wants the stump mics turned off, which I don't think anybody should be even contemplating, because it's great.
It's like, killing the person who's telling you the story as opposed to telling you the story. Loads of stuff that isn't actually in the papers today that's worth just bringing to your attention that happened over the weekend. I'm going to start here with a tweet from Ariel Helwani about Conor McGregor and Max Holloway. So Holloway absolutely killed Jose Aldo in the ring at the weekend. If you want to be put off your breakfast this morning, go and have a look at how badly beaten Jose Aldo was by Holloway. And then Holloway actually texted Helwani like 3 hours afterwards and said, I'm going to come on your show after I win, and said, if the McGregor fight doesn't happen, it's not because of me. Conor is talking about fighting Paulie Malignaggi in MMA. Let that sink in. If McGregor fights Paulie Malignaggi in MMA, it'll be the most one-sided contest in the history of any sport ever. Like, there's no point in that, is there? Like, we just know the outcome.
Well, there's a point in it for Paulie Malignaggi if he walks away with a massive check.
But he'd make more money boxing him, wouldn't he? No one's going to pay pay-per-view to watch that. I might actually pay pay-per-view.
A McGregor Malignaggi boxing
slash
fight
illegal
would
stream
be far more balanced than a McGregor Mayweather fight, obviously.
Yeah.
You would think, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I still think that Paulie Malignaggi is going to beat him in a fight.
But you're crazy to get into an octagon with McGregor, aren't you?
Yes.
Like, you'll get a proper beating. Surely they'll have to tweak the rules.
Yeah, now Holloway and McGregor fought before when Holloway was kind of coming up, and that's the last time Holloway was beaten. It was when he did his ACL. So there's probably a super fight in MMA for them to get on, assuming McGregor wants to do that again. Maybe he doesn't. Eric Donovan, who was in with us last week in advance of his fight in the National Stadium on Saturday, had a one-sided victory on Saturday night, his best performance so far. I'd like to say thank you to every fan who travelled from near and far, to my sponsors for their support, Andy Lee for his guidance and commitment. 6-0, baby. So he did exactly what he said he was going to do in here, fought much more at close quarters, got in and took a little bit, and was able to kind of manage that and ride the punches, apparently, according to all of the reports that you saw, and as a result kind of won that fight easing up. And that's the first fighter he's beaten with a winning record. 2 more fights and he's going to be ranked by the European Boxing Union, which is the next step on the way to actually getting a title fight, which could happen in the next 6 months. So good man, Eric, well done. Donnacha Ryan made his debut, long awaited debut for Racing after his big money move to Paris. So that's good to see him back, and who knows, maybe if there is an injury crisis, he could yet feature for Ireland at the Rugby World Cup. Very, very unlikely, but you know, we live in hope. And then I already mentioned this out of the side of my mouth, somewhat bitter about the fact that Tommy didn't tell us, but Gordon Elliott had an amazing day at the weekend at Fairyhouse, a 3-timer, Appleshade, Mengley Khan and Death Duty winning there. So that is the crack from the newspapers this morning. Yeah, so let's move on to some football. Keith is here. We're going to talk to him in detail now about the main stories from the weekend. Let's have a look at some of Dave talking to Shane Duffy, one of the world's nicest men when it comes to making his time to talk to the Irish press, and Dave in particular. Here's how the conversation went.
Why did you think that you struggled to keep things tied at the back once you went 1 goal down? Because it's something that I'm sure Chris would have expected is going to happen at times this season.
Yeah, I think that's maybe not like this, because we haven't conceded more than 2 goals this season, and I think the lads were a little bit disappointed they scored off a set piece, and I don't know, it's not like this. We were open, and I think we just chased it, and maybe instead of being a shape we tried to win the ball, and maybe the boys got the ball and Salah was running at us, and it's a dangerous sight when he's running at you, like. So I don't know, it's a harsh lesson for the lads to learn, and welcome to the big league, really. And that was it. It was tough, but it's a good group of lads in there. We won't really dwell on it. We know we weren't supposed to come and turn Liverpool over. They're a great team, but we'll regroup tomorrow. Gaff got the right man there for us to regroup and won't let us get too down. As I said, we've got next week against Huddersfield where we believe we can beat them, and that's what we do, and then we beat them and it's forgotten about. Including today's game, I think it's 8 games in 32 days. So, I mean, a lot of your season will be defined by what happens over the next month or so. Do you think that you have a squad that's there that will be able to cope with that? Yeah, there's players who tend to come on and play, and there's good players left out of the squad. Just got to keep momentum going, try and get a win now next Saturday, and then momentum follows it. We're off a couple of good performances, maybe not the results we wanted, but we're still a confident group in there, and it's our first season. We knew we were going to have down lows in the season, and just got to bounce back, and got a good manager, good lads who really want to do well and want to win and drive us on, and that's what we're going to do. And obviously disappointed, a little bit embarrassed at the scoreline in the end, but you've got to put it behind you, and if you dwell on it, it'll haunt you next week again, and where it's really important the teams are getting around us. Finally, Shane, I don't know, did you have a look at the draw yesterday, or was it something that you just couldn't really stomach? Yeah, it was a hard one. Wondering where the Danes might end up. Yeah, we did. I watched it. It wasn't nice, I'll tell you that. And yeah, it was horrible. Even watching Serbia there, it hurt a little bit, and knowing it could be us. But fair play to them. Good luck to everyone there, and we've just got to regroup as well as a country again and go again for the Euros.
That's Dave picking at the wounds of Shane Duffy after a second 5-1 of importance.
A real shout out to him, because, like as you said in your intro there, he's one of the nicest men in football. There was absolutely no need for him to come out and talk to me. He'd already done a little bit of TV work, and this was about 20-25 minutes after the game had ended. Obviously a terrible defeat, and one which has kind of left Brighton looking over their shoulder a little, but he went out and made time for us, and fair play to him. Delighted. What's his ceiling? How good can he be? He's 25 now, getting experience in the Premier League and kind of getting bedded into a Premier League team. Is he a top 10 Premier League footballer? Is he
higher?
I think his improvement over the last 2 years has been drastic. I really do. You go back a few years ago, I played against him when he was at Yeovil a few years ago on loan, and he was, he looked like a lower league centre half in terms of his pace, getting done down the sides. I think his game has improved that much, and he's clearly playing with a lot of confidence. I think if you play him in the right type of team, where he gets protection in front, you're able to play a little bit deep at times. He certainly a top 10, top 6, probably not. But I think him and Dunk, I know they had a tough day on Saturday, but they've really, really impressed me. The best two in the championship for me last year. And then this year, I think, look, at times they're going to get roasted because of the opposition they're up against. They're not in the best team. Brighton have done all right so far. But I'm a big fan of his, I have to say. I think he's done really well.
Yeah, and the fact that he actually manages that step up suggests that if someone does come in from at a higher level,
he can maybe go again.
Yeah.
With better players around them, yeah.
How impressive were Liverpool, and what does this actually mean? What's the truth about where Liverpool really are?
Well, they're just that good going forward, that they're always going to score goals. They were so, like, Dave was at the game, obviously. I only seen the extended highlights. They were blistering on the counter-attack, slick, sharp, the quality of the finishes. The worry for Liverpool, as ever, is defensively. Like Wijnaldum and Chan playing.
Yeah, well, they played 3 at the back, 2 of which were Emre Can and Gini Wijnaldum. So 2 centre midfield players playing in a back 3. But I think Jurgen Klopp picked this game knowing that he would be able to get away with it. He was hamstrung a little because Matip was out. Klavan was only coming back from injury, from illness rather, so he was on the bench, but he obviously wasn't deemed fit enough to start. Lovren was the only actual defender in that back 3. But they were fine because they were only up against Glenn Murray. Now, in saying that, they did give up at least 3 or 4 very good opportunities, one of which Murray absolutely should have taken. It was a sitter from 3 yards out. It was a phenomenal save from Mignolet, but the problem for Brighton was it was 2-0, the second half had just started, and off the Mignolet save, Liverpool swept down the field, an example of that incredible counter-attacking football you described. And Glenn Murray's head was practically still in his hands, having missed a chance, and the ball is in the back of the net the other end, and it's 3-0.
That notion that they're able to get away with it, everybody seems to maybe be taking that Brighton game a little bit for granted because they've a really good home record, had barely conceded any goals this season. So
they were
we have to
great
give some kind of sense that this isn't just...
No, and they are a well organised side, Brighton. They are hard to break down normally. So to score 5 goals at the Amex isn't to be sniffed at. It's a proper performance. But Dave said the margins, obviously, the counter-attacking. If you set up against Liverpool in that, they did set up quite...
Well, first half an hour there was nothing in the game because Brighton were so compact, and what killed them was conceding off a corner kick, a set piece against Liverpool, and Emre Can as well, Shane Duffy's man. It's not something that should be happening, and their biggest problem was they were kind of a bit stung by that, and they conceded from the tip-off. So they're 2-0 down after 31 minutes, having been 0-0 30 minutes in, and actually starting to get a little bit of confidence. They're getting a little bit of ball. They're Bruno, their 37-year-old right back. What a hero that guy is.
How fit is he?
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. Now, he was taken off 10 minutes ago because he had been booked, and I think Houghton was worried he was going to get sent off. But they were getting a little bit of joy, not creating huge amount of opportunities, but they were getting to spend a bit of time in the Liverpool half, and they conceding from the corner kick really undid them. And then it's no surprise then maybe Liverpool are putting 5 in because they get to play the game on their terms then. Brighton are pouring forward and they're so exposed. So
what's the rest of the season for Liverpool? What is... At the end of the year, they look back and go, okay, that was a season of some progress, and it's acceptable. Like, do they have to finish in the top 4? Like, how far do they need to go in European competition? And
I think advance in the Champions League, top 4 has to be. There has to be some kind of continuity from this year, from qualifying from it. Get closer to the top of the table, but United and City are starting to get that little bit of a gap now. But we've seen Spurs in recent weeks drop off. To be fair to Liverpool, they've kept going, and we keep going on about the defensive problems. If you're able to score 2, 3, 4, 5 goals, not so much of an issue. But against the big boys, obviously, it will be.
Can they survive if Coutinho goes? Because I
think they can. For me, in the summer, I wouldn't have been the biggest one of it. I still think they lack a natural number 9 because Firmino isn't that. So I think Firmino could drop into that role. You've got those players, Mane, who didn't come on
Saturday to come back in as well.
So I think they're all right in that area. If they could get a proper striker, because Sturridge obviously with his injury, and I just don't think he suits Klopp's style either.
Yeah, no, he doesn't seem to be a personality fit either for Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think he buys into the whole team ethos of what Klopp wants to do at that club and the high energy, whereas
Which Firmino
It's a bit of
gives
a maverick, and
Firmino runs himself into the ground every week. I think two things that Liverpool fans will have taken away from the last week was A, he was able to leave Salah out of the team during the week, and B, he was able to leave Mane out of the team yesterday. And they've gone to Stoke and they've gone to Brighton within 5 days. They've scored 8 goals, conceded 1, and they're 2 games that Liverpool were either losing or dropping points in over the first 2 seasons under Jurgen Klopp. If they start to beat the lower ranked teams routinely, as well as picking up the same number of points as they have been under Klopp against the top 6, well, that's definitely progress.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Manchester City. Obviously, another, they're calling it Fergie time, but my recollection of Fergie time was that it was the 96th minute.
Yeah, it was a little bit later.
Well, Wednesday was Fergie time, 95th minute when Raheem Sterling curled that into the top corner.
The 82nd minute is not Fergie time.
And the 85th minute against Huddersfield Town, and the 89th minute against Feyenoord. So, if it's within the 90-minute mark, it cannot be classed as Fergie time. Look, Fergie time really came from that win against Sheffield Wednesday in '93, didn't it? When Steve Bruce scored the 2 headers well into injury time.
Brian Kidd on the pitch.
And Kidd on the pitch. That was the day John Sheridan had scored a penalty to put Sheffield Wednesday a goal up. But yeah, Wednesday night was definitely that. But generally the theme is that they're leaving it late, but they're getting it done. And they're in no way are they abandoning their footballing principles and their philosophy. They continue to play the same way in the 95th minute as they do in the first minute, which is not something United do under Mourinho, for example. Put Fellaini on, pump the ball into the area and hope that you get a little bit of a break. And the quality of the goal that won the game against West Ham yesterday afternoon, just absolute class. David Silva popping it in on the volley, leaning backwards after a sumptuous ball in from Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, he's got both feet off the air when the ball
Finish.
Yeah.
It's incredible to watch.
They're showing different. I wouldn't be worried. Like, they've been really tested this week, and teams, like Moyes yesterday, the hours that he must have spent with his analysts and his coaching staff, how are we getting a result? It was a different type of setup that we'd seen before. It was a proper back 5, and they didn't really engage Man City until they got 25 yards from their goal. It was as if, do not come out of your zones, because they're looking for that ill discipline to be able to suck you out, and then it's just bang bang, goal opens
and trying
up.
to manipulate the space.
Yeah, I thought they were really, really clever yesterday, West Ham.
There's 2 ways of looking at the last week. It'd be interesting to get your take on it. Either it's a dagger in the heart of the sides that are chasing them, because even when they're not playing well and struggling to break teams down, they've somehow managed to win each of these 3 games against Huddersfield, Southampton and West Ham. That's one view on it. The other view is that those 3 sides that are among the bottom 6, 7 in the Premier League have shown that City actually are vulnerable and can be got at. Maybe that's the way that Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea should be looking at it.
Yeah, but then it's the lesser teams have to do that, don't they? Whereas Mourinho probably will, because he doesn't care about what we say, what the purists say out there in terms of how he sets his team up. But the bigger teams, when they go and they leave more space, that suits Man City.
Maybe they just
when
don't
they have
do
a little
that.
bit of a go.
Maybe at the derby this Sunday, Manchester United set themselves up the exact same way they did at the Emirates.
Yeah, and I think if Pogba was available, we've seen the way he breaks for that 3rd goal. That's what West Ham couldn't do yesterday. Really, they're trying to find Antonio with, not great quality at
hopeful
times.
balls.
Yeah, whereas United have that. They have the pace with Martial, Rashford, Lingard's, Pogba being that link to drive 30, 40 yards, bypass De Bruyne, Silva, whoever it is, and then you're straight at their probably the most vulnerable part of City's side. Company will probably come back in, but even Otamendi, I think you could have got joy from that. But I think without Pogba, you don't have that real dynamic. He's just that's when he's at his best. Yeah, and that would have caused Man City problems. So it's a shame he's not available.
We'll talk a bit more about Pogba in a minute, but before we leave the Man City chat, obviously during the week Nathan Redmond was on the pitch walking off, minding his own business when he got assaulted by Pep Guardiola. What did his manager have to say about what Guardiola had done? Well, Dave put that very question to Mauricio Pellegrino. Have a watch.
You've history with Pep, you know him from a long way back. A week out or a few days out from it, what's your thoughts on it? As an opposing manager, do you want another manager having a go at one of your players for not attacking enough?
Okay, every single person got his belief in football. There is no any truth, and I had to respect. And for me, it was just a small detail, but no important. For me, the most important Ardmore player is important how we played this game, because we were really close to not just to draws, because we could score more goals, and every single team want to win in different ways, and I had to respect the other.
What? Wait, what?
I was
didn't answer your question at all.
I was struggling to understand the answer. I think by saying that is not any truth, he actually meant that's no lie. But he just batted it away. He's basically just saying, look, it's up to him what he does and the way his team's set up. But we have to set ourselves up in a certain way. I would imagine that a lot of managers would be furious by an opposition manager going after one of their players after the full-time whistle, right in front of the cameras. And then even afterwards, when Nathan Redmond was asked for his explanation of what had been talked about, and he said, I told him I played that way because I was asked to do so by the manager.
Yeah, that was a bit kind of nothing to do with me, go.
Exactly.
Like, take it up with the gaffer. This just reminds me a little bit of all of those cosy chats that you would hear about whenever Ferguson would be playing against Steve Bruce or Ince or any of his former players. They'd always have a glass of wine afterwards. The big penalty decision would have gone his way, and those lads would all be, Gaffer, you got this one over on me. It seems that way with Pellegrino. Like, if it had been Tony Pulis or heaven forbid Roy Keane, who was the manager, or Mourinho, would he have done this, or would he have done it because it's like him and Pellegrino actually know each other a bit and he knows he's not going to get it?
I don't even think it goes that far.
I think he's that.
He's
in the moment.
That's exactly. I think he's that highly strung that I think it's just bang reacts, and there's no logic to it because he shouldn't be doing it. He really shouldn't be doing it, and it is a little bit patronising. If you're the opposition manager,
if they haven't won the game, does he do that?
Well, probably not.
So
I found
it's
it
easy
bizarre.
to be magnanimous, albeit in a very aggressive way that he was with Nathan Redmond, but there was a sense of him being a bit magnanimous in that, saying, weren't they great today, and they dug in, but I think they're a much better team than that, and they could offer so much more going forward. If they don't get that late winner through Sterling,
then it's a magnificent result,
and it is a magnificent result, and it's a terrible one for City. And you can imagine that the full-time whistle pretty much went after the Sterling winner. So there's only a few seconds between Sterling putting it to the top corner and Guardiola talking to Redmond.
Immense,
exactly.
Like, the endorphins flowing through your body.
Still like high as a kite as the whistle goes, and Redmond is walking past him.
I don't know.
I don't think he's thought much about this.
I don't know. I would like to see him do it to another manager later on in the season. Tony Pulis. Whenever Tony Pulis gets back in, let's just see what Pulis. I mean, I know they're mates and they've got.
drops the head on him, it'll be game over. Wouldn't
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can just see it. That's going to happen. Did you answer that question that Dave was asking me about whether or not this is a good result for them, or everybody else actually thinks it's a template to play them?
I think it's a little bit of a dagger because they haven't played anywhere near what they're capable of this week, and they've still got the results. And I was watching yesterday, Gary Neville was saying they were complacent in the front. I didn't think they were complacent. I thought they just weren't at the levels. So the Salehs, the Sterlings, the Agueros, they weren't as slick as they usually are. I don't think it was complacency. And when a team drops like that, you can get into kind of bad habits. You take extra touches, you're a little bit slower in your build up. But then he changes it, he tweaks it at half time, he gets Jesus on, and they get there. They're answering the questions in different ways.
At what point of the season do you begin to feel fatigue? At what point of the season do you kind of go, Jesus, we're in the middle of this now and it's not ending for another 5 or 6 months?
Yeah, well, I think it ebbs and flows. So I would imagine this week that they have felt it at times. But the thing about the way they play, the game's a lot easier when you have the ball. Like, it is.
They're not chasing anything.
No, it genuinely is.
You're getting touches.
And it's a joy.
Yeah.
You're playing like that. It's very different when you play like West Ham did yesterday. If they have to do that, then
you'd imagine West Ham are sore today.
Yeah.
You'd imagine Huddersfield were exhausted waking up last Monday morning, for example, and Southampton on Thursday morning, having had to cover the amount of ground that they cover. But City are just coasting around. Plus, when you're winning, you don't really feel fatigue when you're winning.
Like you made the point about that. Like they stick to their principles. So second half, they did move the ball quicker, and it's side to side. And West Ham, you're coming out a little bit, you're dropping back. It's such constant little sprints.
And it's the brain.
It's sapping. Yeah. Really, really sapping on your body.
Just a quick word on Moyes before we leave this. Like, a really good performance from a team that had been absolutely slaughtered, and it looked like maybe Moyes wasn't going to get that long at the gig after what had happened in the previous match.
Yeah.
And now you think actually maybe give him a little bit of time here?
I think so. And I came on with Joe a couple of weeks ago, and Kev, and obviously Kev's worked for David Moyes, and he's obviously got a relationship with him, so it's a bit difficult.
You can hammer him though.
Not hammer him, but I was sceptical that he's maybe lost his mojo, lost his drive, lost that kind of that made him the manager that he was at Everton.
He seems to have lost his credibility with the players. You would say that, like, there's 3 fails, like fail in a row, and it's hard to walk into the dressing room. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's the guy who did all that good stuff at Everton." It's like, He bombed out at Sunderland, he bombed out in Spain, and Jesus, the United thing, that was a disaster. Like,
it's 1 point from 4 games as well. And it's not going to get any easier. They have Arsenal and Chelsea at home in their next 2 games, and they also have to go to Wembley to take on Tottenham, although that doesn't appear to be the most difficult game in the league at the moment, in their final game before the end of the year. So they're almost certainly going to be in the bottom 3
next 3
going
games.
into January.
Yeah.
No, they have a couple of easier games in between the Arsenal game and the Tottenham game. But 3 of their next 5, 2 at home against Chelsea and Arsenal, their next 2, and then they go to Wembley on December 31st, I think it is. But they're going to be in the bottom 3 on January 1st.
Yesterday was good. Yesterday was promising from a West Ham point of view and a David Moyes point of view, because the players bought in to what he was clearly trying to do. Go back to Wednesday against Everton, dismal.
Yeah.
Really, really dismal.
It was, and yet in retrospect, there was like a worldie and like a through ball from one of their own players that gives the first goal. And maybe, I know.
Throw in the fact that at 2-0 down, Cresswell wraps one off the crossbar and they miss a penalty.
Yeah,
I was at the game of
Vicarage
Road a couple of weeks ago, which they lost 2-0 against Watford, and they had 3 absolute sitters, none of which they took. There's not a lot Moyes can do about that.
I'm just unsure whether he's got it. I don't know.
I would
really
agree.
don't know. I'd be sceptical.
I totally was as well, until you see a performance like that yesterday. And the point you were making about the analysts, and you're thinking, okay, they did work really hard. They did come up with a plan. It was a suitable plan. It nearly paid off against the best team in the Premier League by a mile.
Yeah.
So you hope that maybe they get draws from the 3 big games that you're talking about as well. Let's move on and talk. We can show you the Premier League scores now. And then we'll talk about Man United and Pogba after this. So City beat West Ham 2-1. Bournemouth and Southampton drew 1-1 yesterday. It seems ages ago now, but Chelsea beat Newcastle coming from behind 3-1 in the early kick-off on Saturday. Scoreless between West Brom and Palace. A 1-1 draw between Watford and Spurs. What the hell is happening, Spurs? Stoke 2-1 winners at home against Swansea. Leicester beat Burnley. People asking about Robbie Brady's injury in that one. Everton 2-0 winners against Huddersfield. Big Sam, what a genius. And then, as you've seen, Brighton 1, Liverpool 5, and Arsenal 1, Man United 3. Talk about Man United 1 second. The latest that we have about Robbie Brady is that the injury is serious. Sean Dyche said that almost immediately afterwards, and we just wait for confirmation today. But it's really unfortunate for Brady, because it looked like he was starting to understand exactly what his role within that Burnley team was. The team are doing ridiculously well. You know, it was helping him get over the pain of not going to the World Cup.
He was. He's really kicked on the last few weeks. Obviously, after the disappointment, the playoff with Denmark, I've seen them twice since then, and he's been probably the best player on both occasions. Last week at Bournemouth, he was outstanding, absolutely outstanding.
Incredible performance in that game.
Yeah, he was sensational. Really good relationship with him and Stephen Ward, left back down, and he's got licence to roam. And it's just a shame, because it's taken him a little bit of time to get going at Burnley in terms of that level. There's such expectations on him. But I was just saying to you before, if there's ever going to be, you're going to have injuries in your career. The good thing for him is that we're not going to a World Cup, and he's going to miss out on it. A small comforts, I know. Yeah. But look, he's at a good club with good people. He'll be fine. And
the other thing is that at least he had some really good form, as opposed to it just being that period where he arrived and struggled a little bit, and everybody was like, well, is this really worth all the money? It was like,
so it'll be fresh in fans, people's heads.
Yeah,
look,
he'll become a genius in the aftermath of an injury like this. So let's talk. Pogba clearly deserved his red card. Man United talking about it, appealing it, but
there was one story in one of the papers this morning. I don't think anything has come from the club itself. I'd be amazed if they try to appeal it. If anything, they need to worry about him getting a longer than a 3-game ban for the way that he was applauding.
Because of the sarcasm.
Yeah. Now, I think somebody was saying that because he had his back to the referee, he was walking away from the referee, and there was distance between himself and the ref as he was doing it, might be a mitigating factor. He might have let him away with it.
He was clapping the fans for their support.
Well, I guess he could make that case, couldn't he? But it was a bad challenge. I think he was a little unfortunate in the kind of cowardly way in which Bellerin went in for the 50-50 tackle. He put his leg out in a
weird the way his leg went, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like that. Like I don't know what you're doing there. I don't think I've ever been in that position going in for a tackle. Like that's as if you're kind of half trying to block a shot, or it was a really, really strange one. But tackling has changed so much in the last 5 years. It really has, and he's gone to just toe poke it, stretching, and obviously misjudges it. Bellerin's legs like that, and it is a red, but I have got a little bit of sympathy for him.
One stamping on him with 1 foot would have been unfortunate. Stamping on him with 2 foot looks like carelessness, Dave, in fairness.
I'm not arguing the case that it's not a red card in any way. I think it's 10 times out of 10 it's a red, and his foot it went right down on the back of his leg as well. Like, it wasn't a lingering touch. He didn't react in any way, and I better get myself out of this. He made sure he followed through almost with the stamp. It's absolutely a red. Huge loss for them because he's been so influential since coming back from that hamstring injury.
Just that kind of thing in his head, like, stop, don't do that. Because was it the third goal that he made where it looks like...
Yeah, Lingard's goal, brilliant.
Burners on.
And that's what Keith was describing, that we remember the counter-attacking goal we scored in Vienna with James McLean. It was one pass from Houlihan, took out the entire Austrian defence. You can counter-attack that way, one pass takes them out, or you have somebody that can just drive beyond the last bit of cover, and then that means you've got a 3-on-3 or a 3-on-2, which is what happened for that third goal.
He's the only one that can do it from midfield. Obviously from wide areas, Lingard and Martial, they can do it. Lukaku obviously has pace, but he's the only centre midfielder that they have with that type of dynamic.
How good was Lingard? Obviously scored the 2 goals. What's in his game that is making Mourinho pick him?
Well, he trusts him. He's reliable. I don't understand. There's a lot of negativity around this lad.
Because he gets paid 150 grand a week or whatever it is. Whatever that contract was.
Whatever that he's got a good agent and he's manoeuvred it quite well. But he's very, very reliable. He does... You know what Jose's like in terms of the defensive side of the game, putting a shift in, all the ugly sides. He does that, but I think he shows real quality. Real quality. And we're talking about Shane Duffy improving a lot in the last couple of years. This lad's the exact same. And now he's starting to add quality goals at really important times in big games.
Yeah.
You know,
he got picked as well. Like, he picked him for this game. Yeah. So...
Yeah, well, he was brilliant at Vicarage Road on Wednesday night. The goal that took the game away from Watford when they were right back in at 3-2.
Started in his own half.
Exactly. It was this mazy dribbling run that I wasn't sure he had in his locker. Obviously, you know that he's got pace. He's shown that he can finish in the past. That huge goal that he got in the cup final against Palace to win the trophy for them under Louis van Gaal, that's still probably his biggest goal in his Manchester United career. But the way he took that goal off the flick from Martial on Saturday was such a brilliant finish. Used every inch of the width of the goal, just tucked it inside that far post. And I think he's a real confidence player as well. I'd say. I wonder, is it easily shaken if some things don't go his way? But when he's flying and when he's flowing, he's probably as good an attacking player as United have in their squad at the moment.
I think he's been outstanding. And that goal on Saturday, that build-up play, the crossover of Martial, Lukaku, starting to just build up little relationships now. All that little through. Very, very impressive goal. That movement was as good as it gets.
Because you think back to this time last year and it was like, oh, Lingard, not like, who the hell is he really? Ultimately, he scores that one goal in the cup final. Everybody thinks he's a genius. And Martial's form had disappeared and Rashford wasn't really, he was in and out of the team. And it was all built around whether or not Zlatan was able to manipulate the defence. Now they have loads and loads of options and they look like a team who are developing and evolving into something worth watching, and actually that's going to be pretty exciting as opposed to...
I totally agree, and if Man City went on this ridiculous run that they're on, then United will be top of the league.
We forget they're up against United won 13 in a row. Like, they've picked up 39 points since that draw with Everton. It's virtually impossible to stick with, just as it was last season when Chelsea won, was at 11 in a row and basically took the title race away from everybody else. But it's incredible how quickly things can change in a week. It's only last Saturday that they were terribly inept attacking wise against Brighton. They couldn't create a single chance bar that early opportunity in the first half that was saved from Paul Pogba from close range. The goal that won the game was a fluke, and fast forward a week later, they've scored 7 goals in 2 games, both away from home, both in London, and Jesse Lingard's got 3 of them.
I thought they were outstanding against Arsenal. I really did. Outstanding. Showed different facets to the way they set up in the first 20 minutes. Obviously, Arsenal gifted them to a degree the first 2 goals, but after that counter-attacking style that they can do, if he gives them licence to go and play.
If you're going to play against this Manchester United side, don't give them a 2-goal lead, because you know they can. They're built precisely for that situation. Mark on Periscope says the City win next weekend is going to see them on the same points total that Southampton finished 8th with last year, which is pretty impressive, it being early December.
I think they'll finish higher than 8th. They're flying. Like, I think it's really exciting this year. Really, really exciting. The managers we have, the contrast in styles, and like we've said, if City weren't on this run, you know, it would be top of the league and everyone would be eulogising over.
They have to win Sunday, don't they?
Yeah, well, I think without Pogba,
if City win, the title's over. There'll be 11 clear.
No, it's not over yet.
11 points.
Yeah, it's still early. I know. Look,
halfway
they're
through
flying.
the season, 11 points. Come on.
Yeah, no, I still think there's a long way to go.
If you're a bookie, you'd be paying out on them.
Yeah, but they've messed up before, haven't they?
Not to that extent, not with this team and this manager.
I just think without
United
Pogba,
win,
though,
the gap
Dave.
is 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have a
Exactly.
genuine title race in your hands then. Plus Chelsea start thinking, well, we're now only 8 points behind Manchester City. Why
And
can't we be involved?
start last year, Man City, and not to the level that we've seen this year, but they did start the last season very, very well, and then didn't really happen.
Yeah,
But-
that seemed like it was a bit flaky last year compared to this year.
I know.
Those 3 wins over the last 3 games in particular, they're the type of wins that
They've
you
answered
just,
a lot of questions, haven't they?
you just remember Ferguson's Man United doing that for these 2 months around Christmas time, and then the season was over mid to late January because they had just kind of built up that 12, 14 point cushion, and then they could afford to take it easy as the big games in Europe came a little bit later on.
I think at the end of the season, the last 8 days could be a defining week in Manchester City's season. The fact that they left those 3 games with 9 points when they easily could have finished with 3.
Yeah.
I meant to ask about Declan Rice when we were talking about West Ham. How's he getting on?
Really, really good. I didn't like David Moyes yesterday when he got asked before the game, good opportunity there. He basically implied that, well, look, we're about 6, 7 players down here. To me, is mostly. Hopefully Declan Rice doesn't listen to this, but I'm sure he's in doing his warm-up. But anyway,
Why does he say things like
I don't know.
What did he say? What did he exactly
Basically, he
say?
said, look, yeah, Declan's doing well, but the only reason he's in the team is because I'm in the midst of an injury crisis.
Yeah.
Instead of saying he's been brilliant in training, he's well worth his place in the team today, I hope he goes well.
Yeah.
I
Because
think
he's clearly going to see it afterwards.
Yeah, and it's not.
He's going to go home. I've recorded the
Yeah.
whole thing. Oh, Moisey, what's he going to say? What?
Yeah, I know. He was. I thought he was very, very good indeed. And we talk about the way they set up. Look, he had a lot of protection, but he picked when he went out and pressed, when he held his position. He belied his years yesterday in terms of the maturity in which he played with, and he got booked in the first half, which then meant you obviously have to tweak the way you play. You can't go in for anything silly against the level of opposition. Now, the goal he will learn from, I think, because it was just something that he got attracted a little bit to half covering. I think it was Aguero. Silva makes the run, and it's that split second, couple of yards. Whereas, in a nutshell, what he should have done was he should have trusted. I think it was like Bonnet who was looking at. I've got to take Silva and just step across and arm up. But no, I think he was really, really good. Very promising. He has to be fast tracked into our. He has to be fast tracked into our team now. Ireland has to be. He has to be involved. I know he's very, very pivotal for the 21s in their campaign.
Do you just put him in the squad, or do you put him in the team? Like for the
I
next
think
18
with
months?
friendlies now, I think you give him a bash without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Alongside who? What? Like what?
Well, just get him integrated. Get him see how he goes, because he's clearly a very, very bright talent.
Yeah.
So get him in.
And where's his future? Like, is he? What role do you see him having, kind of in 3 or 4 years' time? What's
Position.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look with young players that we see with like Rashford left wing, he'll end up as a striker. It doesn't really matter for me where he plays, as long as he's playing as high as he can regularly, and then you'll find a position. Like Rio Ferdinand used to play holding midfielder for West Ham when he broke through, so they can trust him in there in a defensive aspect. I think ultimately, from what I've seen, I like him as a centre half.
Yeah.
And we see him play for the Irish in the 21s as a centre midfielder with Josh Cullen. And he's got that drive. He's got a real kind of not Pogba-esque, but he can put the burners on to a degree and really maraud forward. But I would see him as a centre half, but certainly get him amongst it.
There's no argument for not having him in.
No,
Like, there's no reason that he should not be in the next squad. What options have we got?
He's
what
the
have we got to
outstanding one in the
lose?
21s for me. That deserves it. So I suppose, look, Noel King would be keen to keep him with the 21s for the qualification campaign. And in terms of playing those games, that's fine, because that'll be good for his education as well. But get that balance right between, okay, how much club form he's playing, the 21s and our senior team. Get him involved, like Wales are doing with the likes of Woodburn and Ampadu at Chelsea.
Well, that paid off really quickly, yeah.
It did, yeah.
Could we steal Ampadu? I mean, his dad played for Ireland, right?
We missed the trick there.
It's not too late. He hasn't played a competitive game yet.
I know.
Come on, Kwame.
The phone call.
Yeah. Did he play one game for Ireland?
He's supposed to be. I have to confess, I haven't seen him play live, but everybody I speak to raves about him.
Yeah.
Involved with the Welsh side.
He was in the first team squad last week.
The Morrison at Exeter, knew him. Top.
Right.
He's still only 17 years of age.
Somehow we managed to lose that. I think if you're the son of an Ireland international, nobody could have any issues with you playing for Ireland, right? Right, let's have a look at the Champions League fixtures this week. Not the greatest week of Champions League fixtures ever, given that most of the important things have already been decided. Man United, CSKA, Chelsea, Atletico, Roma, Karabag, Celtic, Anderlecht, Bayern versus PSG, Benfica, Basel, Barcelona, Sporting, Olympiacos, Juventus. What games are you guys doing?
I'm doing Chelsea Atletico.
Yeah.
And Shakhtar at Man City.
I'm doing CSK United tomorrow, which is a game that's something on it. United have to avoid a 7-goal defeat.
No trip to Moscow, Dave.
But it's at Old Trafford. And I'm doing Tottenham. I think I'm doing Tottenham on Wednesday, and then Arsenal Thursday night, another dead rubber game. Arguably the biggest game of the week is the Celtic game, which obviously sees them play Anderlecht at Celtic Park, and they have to get a result to make sure they're playing knockout European football in the new year, which would be a big achievement in a group with Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Making sure that you got the job done and finished above Anderlecht, and that win in Brussels is obviously an absolutely massive victory for them. A point would do them on this week, which it'll be great. Continue, what are they, 67, 68 games unbeaten now?
Ridiculous.
Domestically, but if they have knockout football to look forward to in Europe in the new year, that's huge.
Yeah, okay. I mean, obviously there's still some stuff about seedings to be worked out, which is really important. Like if you're an Arsenal fan, you realise the value of finishing first rather than second in your group. I mean,
although there will be some very strong second place teams. For example, Real Madrid are going to be a second seed in the knockout stages, so you could end up topping your group and have to go to the Bernabeu in the last 16.
Yeah, all right, fair
or
point.
Bayern Munich in the last 16.
All right, all of the golf nerds around this parish were unbelievably excited for the last week because Tiger Woods is back. We're going to talk about that with Joe Malloy in just a minute. But first, Oisin caught up with the new Munster boss, Johan van Graan, after Munster beat Ospreys at the weekend.
How important was it that you really played well, especially in the back line tonight, given some of the injuries that you have coming into a massive part of the season and that double-header against Leicester?
Yeah, I know at this stage the injuries are probably the most negative thing. We've got so many guys injured, we'll just have to adapt and stand up and fight. I thought some of those young backs performed very well tonight. Very happy with Sam Arnold, Calvin Nash coming on. JJ played well. I thought Keats played the game very well. Happy Duncan came back. Also for James Hart, had a very good 15 minutes.
What particularly impressed you about their display? I mean, what were you looking for tonight that you thought was satisfactory, and what do you think they did really well?
Composure. I thought this was going to be a difficult game for us with Europe looming. Played against a team that were desperate. I thought we started really well. For the first 36 minutes we were very clinical, and then at half-time we said, listen, let's reassess what we did well, what didn't went well. We adapted at half-time and scored that brilliant try right after half-time. And
between Darren and Alex, you've got pace, power and skill on the wings. I mean, again tonight they were really impressive.
Yeah, I thought both wings, all the backs were pretty impressive. I thought we varied our play pretty well. I thought Rory put those balls in behind them, kept them in the own 22, and there was some brilliant line breaks on my backs.
You're pretty much hitting the ground running, aren't you, coming in at an important time like this, and also having to deal with the injuries we just mentioned?
Yeah, like I said before, this is not at all about me. I've been here for 2 weeks now, so next job's Leicester. It'll be a massive game for us at Thurman Park. We'll race this on Monday morning and then take it from there.
It's Johan van Graan going to face the media again today in advance of the Leicester Tigers match, where it's expected, according to Gavin Cumsky in the Irish Times this morning, there'll be an update on the Peter O'Mahony contract situation. That was pretty funny. Simon Zebo looking over his shoulder. Locked out.
It actually looked like he was there in person as opposed to being a poster. Dangerous injury to Simon Zebo, having been past fit to play in the game at the weekend after undergoing repairs on a knee injury, and then he comes in with a rib injury and doesn't see the second half.
Yeah. All right, let's turn our attention to golf, and I'm delighted to give Joe Malloy his Off the Ball AM debut. How you doing, Joe?
Hey lads, how you doing? Very excited. Hey!
I thought you'd have a picture of Tiger in the background there.
I was thinking about it, and then I thought better of it.
Yeah. Come here, you guys were pretty excited Thursday, Friday. Saturday, a bit of the excitement came off, and then Sunday was back again.
Yeah, pretty much. It's, like the whole golf fraternity, even not just the golf nerds like us are excited. For instance, Hank Haney, who's never been terribly nice about Tiger since they parted ways as coach and player, he said Tiger can definitely win again with that move. Butch Harmon said Tiger can win a major after what he's seen over the last few days. Brandel Chambly, who's a tough taskmaster, said he can contend with that swing. Frank Nobilo said it's beyond hopeful. So for a whole ton of reasons, even the most knowledgeable in the game are suddenly allowing themselves to get a bit excited again.
Well, just to puncture that a little bit, we should explain a bit about this tournament. Is not that high pressure. Like, they go out, they collect their money, they have a bit of crack. It's in Bermuda. Tiger was talking about the adrenaline flowing, but obviously his adrenaline was flowing, but everybody else's wasn't as flowing as it would normally be for a big week, right?
Yeah, absolutely true. I guess you're judging Tiger this week by what Tiger did in this tournament last year, and also his most recent appearance in February in Dubai, where he looked like an old man, frankly. So he doesn't look like an old man anymore, is the short news. Like, so if you're to break it down even statistically, the one thing you want with Tiger, very simply, is one, to come back and for his back to be fine. And so that was fine, and he looked good, and he looked reasonably athletic again. The next thing you want with all golfers from a kid up, Keith Andrews, when he's starting off and he's getting his little lessons and he's doing his little thing, the one thing you want is speed. So even if you have a kid, does the kid have speed? I can work with speed. Tiger Woods, over the past few days, had a ball speed of 180 miles an hour. So to put that in context, if he did that on the tour reasonably regularly last season, that would put him in the top 20 for ball speed. That would put him between Adam Scott and JB Holmes. So Tiger can win with that, actually. Tiger can contend with that kind of ball speed. So that's the really exciting thing. If you're to say, like, well, why should we be anyway optimistic? One, the back looked good and he looked athletic. And then two, the big thing everybody took away is the ball speed. Like, Tiger is not this old man, the old man he's looked like for the last year or two.
Yeah, okay, that is pretty interesting, because depending on who you were following on Twitter, there was a debate about whether or not he still had the chipping yips. At one point it was like, oh, he still has the chipping yips, so things haven't changed. But then there was other times when actually his short game wasn't as bad as it has been previously. What was your take over the 4 days?
Thursday I was a bit worried. Peter Lorre was on Golf Weekly 2 weeks ago, and he reckoned Tiger did have the chipping yips. I'm less sure he had the yips. He had a meltdown at a couple of tournaments, really due to rust, I think, as much as anything. But there was an issue there for sure. On Thursday, it was slightly worrying. It was very grainy, kind of a grass around the greens, and he duffed a few chips. And yet, if you were on Twitter that night, we all thought, oh, this isn't good. Like, there's scar tissue here. There's just stuff here which is going to be badly exposed. And then on the Friday, where he shot the 68, his best performance of the week, he hit 3 chips across Friday, which were really heartening for a lot of reasons. 2 of them were off the green. They were difficult chips. He hit them very well. And then the one where we all kind of said, well, hey, was on the 17, the par 3. He was on the green, but there's a giant ridge in his way. He could have putted, but really putting wasn't the right option with the ridge. And everybody was delighted, I think, to see him. He took out a lob wedge of some sort off the green. As in on the green, he chipped it, and he just played the most classy chip. I mean, fizzed the ball low on the high-resolution replay. He barely took a blade of the manicured green. It was a great shot, but it was the kind of shot, if you're feeling anyway yippy, you do not take, because the odds on you blading it across the green and having another chip to come back and meltdown ensuing are reasonably high, and that made everyone think, right, he feels pretty okay about this. Now, again, I go back to your point about it not being high stakes, and would he do it at the Masters? We'll see. But he's still under a lot of personal pressure. Everyone's watching. And that chip on Friday made a lot of people think, oh, my God. I mean, if he's driving it this well, and he's not afraid to pull out the old a wedge in that situation, then, that's when we lost our minds and decided to do a Golf Weekly on a Sunday.
Yeah, Joe, I agree with you completely that, there's not much pressure on the rest of the field. It's only an 18-man field, and it's not the longest course in the world, but there was a lot at stake for Tiger Woods. There was more at stake for him and more pressure on him than there was anybody else in the field. Just a question to you on the way that he was driving the ball at the weekend, because there's a lot of talk of coming back and the multiple back surgeries and the toll that his body has had to undergo since he went professional back in '96, that he would have to change the way he attacked the ball, and that he would just accept that he was never going to be able to keep pace with the heavier hitters on the tour. He was keeping up with Justin Thomas at the weekend. He was driving just at an average of just under 300 yards, and and Thomas was ranked 8th on the PGA Tour. At one stage, Tiger hit a 272-yard 2-iron, which is as good a strike as you'll see from anyone on tour. And he said after himself he was surprised at the distance he was getting, put some of it down to adrenaline. But at the same time, maybe we don't have to see this toned down Tiger who has to rely on his skills and no longer the brunt and the bulk that he would have had overpowering courses in the past. Maybe he actually still has it.
I know, that's what's so exciting. We thought maybe with Tiger Woods now it was going to be Tiger hitting a stinger off the tee and we would just have to make do with you, as you said, this kind of pared down, less exciting Tiger Woods. Joe LaCava, his caddy, it was in the Observer yesterday. LaCava's been around a long time, he knows his stuff. He was saying he practiced with Woods 3 weeks ago and then teamed up with him in advance of this tournament in the last few days, and he could not believe his eyes. I just don't understand where this speed has come from. This is kind of unbelievable. So he was kind of blown away, and Woods was saying he was playing practice rounds. He seems to be friendly now with a lot of the younger guys. So he's playing with Ricky Fowler recently, as much as anything, just to figure out his distances. So he was saying to Ricky from 200 yards, "What are you hitting here?" And for the first time, he was keeping up with these guys. And like some of his bad shots, again, this puts the score into context. He was saying at one stage he had 278 yards to the pin, took out his 2-iron into the wind, and he hit a cut shot. And he thought that'll be, I'll be doing well to reach the flag. And he hit it 290 and flew the green and was kind of looking over at Joe LaCava saying, what's going on here? So, distance-wise, look, all going well. It's really exciting. We could see a Tiger who's in the top 15, top 20 distance, and on good days, maybe slightly better. We were always hopeful this would be the one because he's had 4 surgeries. We were starting to think he's done. He had the back fusion. Back fusion's not a good idea. It's not something you're meant to do until you're in your 50s minimum. You lose a lot of flexibility. So the worry was flexibility that would hamper his swing. He seems just fine. Davis Love III had a neck. It was in his upper back, but still had a fusion about 3-4 years ago and came back and won on the tour aged 51, the oldest winner in tour history. So he swore by the fusion. Tiger's gone down the road of the fusion and it does not seem to have hampered his speed. All the swing experts are looking at it saying this is really good, and I think you're right, Dave. It looks like we're not going to have a boring 260-yard Tiger Woods, a Graham McDowell-esque Tiger Woods who's having to be cute around the course to win. This looks like he can launch it. I hope Graham McDowell's not your next guest.
Yeah, poor G-Mac. Jesus, come on down. What the hell did he do? The only thing that I'd be worried about is that clearly it was his aggressive athleticism that caused some of the injuries to his knees and his back in the past. And here he is doing exactly the same thing again. It's like, it's diminishing returns. He can do it for a short period of time and maybe he burns bright and glorious for one season and then that's it. But maybe that's all his career needs to finish off.
Yeah, that's the big question mark. His schedule, he was on TV afterwards, asked about his schedule. He said he doesn't know yet. You would hope he plays 15 events a year and just tailors them around the majors. You would hope as well he doesn't fly home, not for the first time in his career, and think, God, I was right up there distance-wise. If I just go home and put on another 10 pounds of muscle, I might be even longer off the tee. You kind of hope he strategizes now and says, I'm going to accept I'm 41. I'm not what I used to be, and just work on flexibility and not hit the gym hard, and is just clever. And that's where his very brilliant, logical brain, which has allowed him to win so many tournaments, is going to have to fight with his ginormous ego, I think. And we don't know the answer to that. There's plenty of yes men around Tiger, but you just hope whoever's around him says, this is plenty. 300 plus off the tee, you're in the top 20 distance on tour. If you can get your short game back to anywhere approaching where it was and get the putting back to where it was, please God, just don't go messing with the gym. And then look, here's the maybe the point, because I appreciate we might run out of time. Golf really needs Tiger. It was so apparent over the last couple of months, the wraparound PGA Tour season. Golf is so boring without him. It is full of these white guys in their 20s, right wing, prematurely bald, just not very interesting. And it's just hard to get into a lot of the tournaments at the moment. And then Tiger comes back to this nothing tournament. And suddenly, I'm watching Charlie Hoffman's chip on the Thursday with greater interest. And I'm thinking, why am I watching Charlie Hoffman? Why am I interested in what Charlie Hoffman does here? And then it kind of hit me. It's because it's relevant to Tiger. Suddenly, everything that happens in a tournament is relevant to Tiger. He is the sun. They are orbiting him. Therefore, they're all elevated. They're all more interesting. And golf can tell itself, oh, everybody's interested in Justin Thomas outside of golf. Like the truth is, they're just not. Most people outside of golf think Jordan Spieth is boring, even though he's not. So to say that Tiger is needed over the next 5 years is an understatement. So this is really good.
A lot of people just got way richer. Duke on Periscope says Tiger is back as long as his back doesn't come back, which is, I think, precisely the point.
Sums it up all right.
Yeah. And Seamus McIntyre says, the GOAT is back, hit some utterly stunning shots over the weekend, trying my hardest not to get too carried away. I've never seen a bunch of middle-aged men get as carried away about anything on social media in my life. I mean...
I don't know, has the narrative around him changed? There seems to be a lot of love for him. There was a time when a lot of people never wanted to see Tiger Woods win again. I would say that if Tiger is in contention, Joe, in the next, say, 6 months, whether it's a regular PGA Tour event or it's at Augusta National in April, that there'll be an awful lot of people that would love to see him win or win that 15th major. I'm not amongst those people, but...
It's hard to... I guess he's more vulnerable. I guess he's a bit more human. He's definitely softer and more likeable in interviews. He did play golf with Donald Trump the other week, which was just, Tiger. To say he's just been a disappointment in so many ways is it's an understatement. But he's more human. I mean, even I don't know what Keith thinks, but you look at someone who's come through everything he's come through, and he was a bit of an ass for a long time. He was cold. He was a killer. He wasn't nice in interviews. Like, we've seen a very human person go through very human things, like the mugshot. You know what I mean? Even the mugshot alone. And so it would just be one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. It could arguably be the greatest comeback in sports history. I don't say that lightly. So I if he's in contention in the 15th major, Keith, I'm cheering him on all the way.
You want to see Tiger win his 15th major?
Yeah, look, I think he deserves a lot of. I totally agree with Joe. I think I wouldn't have been as into golf then, but I obviously knew and would have watched the majors or whatever. But I probably wouldn't have appreciated him as, like you said, a lot of the middle-aged men are going crackers over at the moment. But
you're middle-aged.
The mental strength that he has shown to get back to this level just shows exactly what he's all about. Because he was an idiot, wasn't he? Absolute idiot. But he seems to be nice and humble at the moment. But no, it would be a big story.
I think the humility is an act, by the way. But I do. I just think that an unbelievably managed. I actually do want to see him win a tournament.
I want to see him contend.
It vastly improves the sport.
And in 2013, it was out of 2013 or 2014, he was the Player of the Year in the PGA Tour. He won 4 times. 13 got back to world number 1. And I really enjoyed that. It was great to see it. But when, in the 2014 Masters, when I think it's day 3, Joe, where he has that chip that hits the pin and comes back into the water on 13, and you're thinking, before he hit that shot, he's going to win this event. I did not want that to happen.
Why?
Because I don't like him. I don't like him as a person. I don't like what he has done in his private life. I think it's disgusting. And personally, I'd love to see him be there because, as Joe says, this is the Hero World Challenge, 18-man field. Outside of him, no one gives a toss about this tournament. And yet, everybody's glued to it. The sport needs him more than any other sport needs one of its chief protagonists. I want to see him play regularly. I want to see him contend. I want to see him go down the stretch with a Mickelson or a McIlroy, for example. Don't really want to see him win, though.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that.
There you go. What's coming up tonight, Joe?
God, Jarrett's.
Hasn't even thought about that
yet. There you go.
Keith Andrews is going to talk football at some stage.
Monday Night Rugby, maybe?
Monday Night Rugby, yeah. I think Donald O'Callaghan's on. I think Pat Nevin's on. I think we might talk Tiger. I think Matt Lawton actually is going to talk to us about this Team Sky stuff with the Ireland-Denmark match. We kind of glossed over it. So just what actually was in that latest report by UCAD and what is the parliamentary report likely to have. So Matt Lawton on how much trouble Team Sky are not in. All
right, good stuff. Thanks for getting out of bed for us.
Yeah, thanks. See you.
Not a bad debut as debuts go. It's John Malloy on Off the Ball AM for the first time talking about Tiger Woods. I didn't realise that you had such a visceral hatred for...
Hated I could feel that, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, it's...
I know
what more do you want me to say? I've laid my cards on the table there on that one.
It's 8:48 in the morning, just...
I usually have a half day's work done at this stage, unlike Joe. But then Joe will be working until 10 o'clock tonight, so we'll give him a pass on that one.
Yeah, no, totally. So we definitely appreciate getting out of bed. Keep the text and comments rolling in. You can get us off the ball Twitter.com/offtheball, YouTube.com/offtheball. We're also on Instagram. We got the Off the Ball handle just last week, wrestled it off some woman who had it registered from the last 8 years and had used it never.
We all had to take a pay cut for it, though.
Yeah, I mean, metaphorically wrestled, obviously, just in case anybody gets concerned, you know. Feel a bit like Ray Wilkins. Ray Wilkins is touting for himself for, this is Mary Hannigan's story in the Irish Times today, touting himself for the Rangers job by saying, somebody who actually understands what that club is needs to go there. And he lists off Durant, McLeish, and then of course, and me as well as a potential manager. I'd love to have a crack at saving that club. It's like, what kind of madness would any club need to be at this point to make Ray Wilkins their manager?
Well, they're already getting the Aberdeen manager, aren't they? Well, they seem close enough to getting him, and they beat Aberdeen at the weekend as well in a brilliant game. Ray Wilkins telling the world that he still has what it takes to be a manager when he never had what it takes to be a manager. It's pretty funny.
That's a harsh environment this morning.
She quoted an incident from his commentary where he was talking about a penalty incident, and he was like, it was Villa QPR, I think, and nobody behind the goal thinks it's a penalty. They are all QPR fans, obviously, like, as in, you know, they would have been saying it should be a penalty against their own team.
That's probably not a reason for him not to get a managerial
credentials now.
No, there you go. All right, so Ardmore won a Munster Junior Club Hurling Championship on Sunday, finishing the game with just 12 men, the 12 Apostles. Declan and Seamus Prendergast spoke with our Oisin Langan and their Oisin Langan, because of course it's an Ardmore love in here. Have a look.
We've just witnessed the miracle in Mallow. That's what they're calling it, and by they I mean me. Ardmore have beaten Ballybacon Grange at Tipperary in the AIB Munster Junior Final, and they did it finishing with 12 men. They only had 13 men going out for the second half against Ballybacon's 15. Wayne Hennessy and Jack Walsh, the goalkeeper, getting sent off, and former Waterford forward, can't remember his name, getting sent off in the end, but he also got 2-5. Seamus Prendergast, how does it feel to be a Munster champion with your club for the first time?
That's the greatest achievement of my life, and this winning with Ardmore Munster final. And as you say, coming 13 men at half time, but we went into the break, and there was nothing going to stop us coming out in that second half. Wayne, probably one of our greatest ever players, come out of Ardmore getting sent off harshly enough, is what I thought, and to be missing him in the second half and come out and win the game without him, like, it was unbelievable. And same with Jack Welch, a young lad coming up, like, just unlucky to get sent off, but we said at half time we weren't going to lose, and we just came out and we weren't going to lose in the second half. Simple as that.
I was saying it in commentary, Declan, that you were going to have to be first to every ball, and boy were you, and you led by example. What was said at half time, and talk to me about that second half and how it all kind of played out?
Well, I suppose half time, everyone inside just decided a big work rate was needed. Then I suppose when we were down to 13, the men sent off just right at half time. I suppose they thought they maybe nothing to do, only come out and play against us and beat us, like, so it probably worked easier for us. Every fellow worked a bit harder. They made mistakes on the ball, I suppose, that we counteracted scores on, so it just, I suppose the work rate that we did have in the second half, I suppose that was the key to it. Like,
we put a huge effort in. There's only one thing we want now, and we won't leave no stone unturned to try and get that far, like, and get to Croke Park for this club.
Declan, does it mean even more because you're getting to the kind of later stages of your career?
Definitely, yeah. Look, there's only a few years left in us. Look, I suppose there's other lads after retiring before us, but it's nice to go back to your club and to finish out your years back there. That's where it all started, and that's where I want to see it finish now, and to be nice. I don't have an All-Ireland medal, so this is the one I'm going to try and win.
And how did you keep yourself fit to be able to go out there and outrun young fellas and get out in front and win balls? I mean, like, you look like a 22-year-old out there.
Look, I suppose when you're winning and when you have a great group of lads around you, it makes it a lot easier. Maybe if we were down a few points, it mightn't be as easy to run as faster.
The chip on the shoulder thing, it kept you motivated.
It definitely did, yeah, definitely did.
Declan and Seamus, thank you very much. Ardmore, the Munster champions, they have achieved the miracle of Mallow.
Yeah, Oisin Langan joins us. How are you doing, Oisin?
Good morning, lads. I'm okay considering the circumstances. The greatest day in GAA circumstances in Ardmore's history, to kind of paraphrase F and Eddie.
There you go. Tell us a little bit about this, because obviously you are an Ardmore club person. So this is actually incredible for you guys, and just explain a little bit to everybody who doesn't know anything about Ardmore why this matters so much.
Well, look, we're a small village on the seaside in Waterford, and funnily enough, we probably shouldn't actually be in junior hurling because we got relegated from intermediate last year, and a couple of years before that we had been a senior club. As you're well aware, we've got some top quality players, Seamus and Declan Prendergast. Jack Walsh, the young goalkeeper, he's class. David and John Gartland were a part of a Dungarvan Colleges team that won an All-Ireland, beating St. Kieran's in the final. And Seamus Keating, who's currently part of the Waterford panel. But when they got relegated, when that happens, you can kind of do one of two things. You can say, well, sure, that's it, and give up, or you can work incredibly hard, as this bunch of lads have, and fight your way back and win the county title, which they did. And now they've gone on to do something they've never done, which is the Munster title. So it means so much to everyone. You could even see it with Seamus and Declan there, and even what Declan said, I've never won an All-Ireland medal, and Seamus was the same. For all the success they've had at county level, they want an All-Ireland medal. And it means more to go along the cliche. It means more to them because they've done it with lads that they've always known. And Declan said to me yesterday, he's been playing for Ardmore for 30 years. Declan was playing under 12 when he was 7. So, I mean, he has given a lifetime service. He broke his wrist, by the way, during the summer. It looked like he mightn't play at all this year, and he's playing through the pain barrier. But he was immense yesterday, lads. I mean, he was absolutely amazing. I don't think I've ever seen Declan Prendergast take charge of a game like he did yesterday. It was phenomenal. And they were down to 13 men for a lot of it, and then 12 at the end.
Yeah, they were crazy odds-on favourites heading into the game. So there's obviously a bit of pressure with that. And then they go 2 men down and then a third man down. So it sounds like it was a bit of a mental game.
It was crazy. Wayne Hennessy was sent off with about 7 minutes to go. Obviously, I'm biased, but he threw himself into a tackle. Generally, it would be a yellow card, I think. The referee said dangerous play, so he got the red. The goalkeeper's one was an injury time at the end of the first half. Look, I don't think any of us can have any complaints about that. He's a young guy. He's, just these things happen. So it was 13 men against 15 men. We were a point up going into the second half. Bacon got a bit of a run. And then, as Declan said, Ardmore just decided, right, we're going to have to run this ball, because if we puck it into space, which is what they were doing, Ballybacon were going to win it every time. They had the numerical advantage, but Ardmore, plain and simply, would have had just more hurling, and that's just a fact of it. So that's exactly what they did. There was a period of about 5 minutes in the second half where Ardmore just went on a run, moved the ball, ran it down the park. Seamus Keating really took charge of it. David and John Gartland boomed into it. James Flavin, who was the county minor fullback this year, was playing at wing forward. He was amazing. I mean, he won a mountain of ball and took on 2 and 3 lads at a time, and what would have taken on more if they were available. And then Seamus got sent off at about 3 minutes to go, and at that stage the game was won. But yeah, it was crazy. But Ardmore, they just took charge of it, and I appreciate they were odds on. I appreciate they were the better team. But when you're 2 men down going into the second half of a Munster final, you do think, okay, they've done it against the odds. In those circumstances, they have done it against the odds. Hence the kind of, I went a bit overboard with the miracle of Mallow stuff.
Well, there you go. And I think everybody will indulge you this one time, Oisín. And so they're in the same, obviously, grade as Ballyragget, the infamous Ballyragget. Is it straight through to an All-Ireland final, or do they have to play? What happens now?
Ardmore will play Setanta of Donegal in the All-Ireland semi-final. Ballyragget were really pushed by Glenealy, actually, on Saturday. I mean, I won't say they were lucky to come out of it, but they were given a rattle. Apparently, Leighton Glynn had a really good game. But yeah, Ardmore will play Setanta, and Ballyragget will play. It must be whoever comes out of comics.
All right, good stuff. Thanks a million, Oisín.
Real mature guys, by the way. Real mature.
Oh, you're a pro. We're not.
You're definitely not.
Come on. How are we supposed to deal with the story for the rest of our lives anytime Ballyragget
just keep using the word infamous.
Yeah. All right, let's move on, because there was lots of other GAA stories to tell you about at the weekend, none of which made the front pages for a change. Another final, another goal for Conor Callaghan as Cuala bossed their way to another provincial title, hammering Kilcormac Callaghy by 14 points. Some year for Conor Callaghan, All-Ireland Club Senior Hurling Champion, Under-21 Leinster Football, Under-21 All-Ireland Football, Leinster Senior Football Championship, All-Ireland Senior Football, All-Star Young Footballer of the Year, Dublin Club Senior Hurling Championship, and Leinster Club Senior Hurling Championship. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
On the back of all the medals he won last year, which was at least, I think, another 5 thrown in there. It's quite the haul.
Yeah, it's not bad. Cuala did also find out who their All-Ireland semi-final opponents are going to be. It is Liam Mellows of Galway. They won the Galway Senior Hurling Championship for the first time in 47 years, beating Gort 3-12 to 1-15. On to Parnell Park. Big game in Parnell Park. The Women's All-Ireland Club Final. That is Cora Staunton. Cornican won another All-Ireland Senior title. That's their 6th, as Cora Staunton signed off on the perfect note before beginning her women's AFL adventure. Here she is celebrating as defeat sinks in for Aisling O'Sullivan of Mourneabbey in Cork. That's the 3rd time in 4 years that Mourneabbey have lost the All-Ireland Final. So hopefully they can come back a little bit stronger next year and maybe not have to face the challenge of Cork Staunton in the final. Further pain for Kinsale of Cork as Meath's Dunboyne edged a thriller by a point to win the intermediate All-Ireland title also at Parnell Park. And Kilmessan of Meath won the All-Ireland Junior Camogie title on Sunday, beating Clanmorris of Kerry by 9 points to 5 after a replay. Elsewhere, Strably beat the Nair in the Waterford Senior Football Championship final. Achada.
Second one.
Achada. Blank stares all around. Achada of Cork beat Corduff to win the Ladies Junior All-Ireland final, and Kilkenny's Ballyraggett, as we said, gave Glenealy a good rattle of Wicklow to win the Leinster Intermediate Hurling Championship final. The AFL Combine was also held in Dublin this weekend as some of the best young footballers in the country tried to impress coach Marty Clark, Mark Keane of Cork and Anton Tohal of Derry going for a ball here. I presume Anton is some relation to Anthony? I'm not
going to presume.
No?
But there's a body of evidence there that would suggest that he is.
Yeah. All right. Marty Clark. I'd say, Marty, you better watch, when the True Gaels get wind of the fact that you're trying to ship off some of our best young players, offering them a career where they might get paid to do a thing they love. It's terrible.
Disgraceful behaviour.
All right. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us on Twitter. He is Anthony's son, yeah. You can get us on Twitter at Off The Ball, or you can always get us on facebook.com/Off The Ball. Now, over the course of the weekend, we published our interview with the friends and family of Niall Donohue, the incredibly talented Galway hurler who took his own life in 2013. You can watch our full piece here on the Off The Ball Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. Have a look.
One of the person that I can't let today pass without mentioning. He was soldiering with us for years. Good friend of mine, first cousin of Conor Whelan. He passed away in 2014. Niall Donohue, we'll never forget him. We'll remember him today.
I find it hard to go to the graveyard. My wife died, I didn't find it hard. It was a totally different type of bereavement. You have to experience these things before you know what they're like. Otherwise you wouldn't have a clue. No one would, like. I'm not disrespecting anyone's opinions or anything, but you just wouldn't have a clue.
It's unexplainable.
It's unexplainable, yeah, but I find it hard to go to the graveyard since Niall was buried there. He's over 4 years dead now, and I'd say you nearly counted that hand many times he's gone in. That's the truth. I find it hard to believe he's in there, like. Felt that they'd go out in Cork Park in front of 82,000 people, you get me? You wonder how they're so strong and how they come in so weak. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to explain it, like. But it's happened, it's happening every day, but that's life, I suppose, and that's crosses people if they carry and just get up and get on with it, and hopefully, do you know what I mean? I've talked to people all over the world and all over Ireland, I mean, and people from abroad as well, and they told me how their crosses that their families have met generations back, and they've got up and get on with it, and hopefully next generation will be different.
Yeah, really heartbreaking stuff there. Francie, one of the stars of that 33 minutes of broadcast, it's already had 250,000 views on Facebook. If you haven't had a chance yet to watch it, I'd urge you to make the time to sit down and spend some time. I know it sparked a lot of conversations right around the country. If you just start looking at the Facebook comments underneath it, you do realise that so many people have mental health issues and don't ever speak about it. And I kind of feel like maybe sport has a role to play in all this in a way that shouldn't just be on the surface. Like, this is an awful thing that happened to the hurlers of Galway and to that family. And maybe because he was a hurler, people will talk about this more than if he wasn't a hurler, and that needs to be some kind of rescuing of that legacy. And at the same time, you don't want to this is difficult to say, but you don't want to kind of turn it into a heroic thing either, and they're very conscious of that.
No, but I think the family, I caught about the last 10 minutes on Off The Ball last night, just before they went off air, and literally 10 minutes, and you could feel the emotion, and they're trying to turn an absolute tragedy into something that can prevent something like that again in the future by making it, it's not easy what they've just done and spoke about, and obviously what they've gone through over the last couple of years. So sad, but you're right, it's not the done thing to talk about things like this, is it?
No, it really isn't.
Very macho environment, sport, and it was obviously a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's changing though.
Yeah.
Slowly, but it's definitely changing. We saw it form quite a significant part of the documentary surrounding the Dublin ladies footballers who won the All-Ireland title, that if the more high-profile sports people that are willing to discuss their own mental health issues, it means that people who are following sports can relate to those who probably they think they're a little out of their league or are unrelatable too, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's a long road, but finally we are starting to open up and talk about these things far more readily.
Yeah, you can catch that whole thing on facebook.com/off the ball. And obviously thanks to everybody involved in making their time available to Shane and Joseph, who put the piece together. And it's really amazing work from Shane and Joseph being able to capture that and to do justice to the testimonies of the people involved. So right, that's pretty much our lot today. It's been a very busy show, it's been a busy Monday, and it's an unbelievably busy week coming your way. Loads more great stuff right here on Off the Ball AM. Andy Lee's going to join us in studio tomorrow talking about his experience at the weekend in Eric Donovan's corner. That was him cutting his teeth really as a professional trainer, and you know, maybe that might be the little breadcrumbs that takes him away from the notion of getting back into the ring as a fighter himself. We'll see how much he enjoyed that experience when he joins us tomorrow. And as ever, if anything comes up during the day that you want to get in touch with us with, then feel free to hit us up. Happy Christmas. Is it time to say Happy Christmas to people? No.
It is. If you have kids at home, it is. We're putting the decoration of the tree up.
That's fine, but you can't be wishing people a happy Christmas.
Come on.
Do you buy a tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Catholic. We celebrate Christmas.
No, I mean...
I'm joking, a real one, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we were torn this year, actually, and we got an artificial one.
You did get an artificial one?
Are you real?
Got a real one. How much do you think a real one costs these days?
I'd say it's 40 odd quid at this stage.
65 quid!
What?
No
65 quid! Yeah. And I was like, I have my own stand. He's like, yeah, it's still 65 quid. It would have been another 10. I would have taken another tenner off you for that. I'm like, you've got a fake one, do you?
I went into Woody's on free plug there for Woody's. I went about 3 years ago on about the 3rd or 4th of January, and they were selling off their massive artificial trees at half price. Paid 100 lids for it. That's about 5 years ago.
Going strong.
Paid for itself at this stage and is going up tonight.
Yeah, it doesn't smell great though, Dave. Doesn't smell great.
You don't have to pick up the pine needles either, which is another bonus.
Things called hoovers these days.
Exactly, you have to hoover.
Yeah.
We hoover about once a month.
All right, that's our lot. Buy a real tree and support your local industry. Maybe try and batter down the price from 65 though.